I'm Jessica. I am a tour guide here at Maple Farm Sanctuary. I have been here for almost 2 years next month. On Mondays, I'm a barn volunteer, which means I come and I clean up poop and feed them. And on weekends, I tour the facility. So this is the facility. This is Maple Farm Sanctuary. We are 125 acres with over 100 animals. Now behind me, what you see are these cows. And Maple Farm Sanctuary actually did start out as Maple Farm Dairy. And Jim was a third-generation dairy farmer, and Sherry was a goat farmer. And after they had a profound change of heart about 20 years ago, and they decided that they would become a sanctuary, which is the sanctuary you see here today. Now, the cows behind us have decided not to come over, and that's because I'm really glad we even get a chance to see them at all, because these cows do have 125 acres that they can roam anytime they want. So they come up for breakfast, they come up for a little bit of drink of water, and then suddenly, sometimes I'll be looking over there and I'll see a line of cow bum-bums just walking through the woods, and they're all going back into the woods over there. I don't know what they do back there. I've never followed them. Maybe they're making jewelry. We do have a rose quartz vein back there, and Farmer Sherry actually makes some beautiful jewelry. So the cows you're looking at right now are Lorcan and Vanilla, and I'm not sure who that is with her back to us, but but they're over there eating leaves and trees and visiting and deciding to be a little stuck up and ignoring us completely. That they can absolutely, the best thing about this is that they are completely free to do what they want. The average lifespan of a cow at a dairy is about 5 years, and then they're sent to slaughter. So all of these cows have well exceeded that. None of these cows were able to keep their babies. We did have one baby born on the farm. That was Habibi, who I don't see right now. She was born to a cow that came to us who was very ill, named Crystal. Habibi, when she was a baby, was followed by so many of these cows because every one of them thought that it was their baby that they'd lost. So this young lady next to me is Gail, and one of Gail's favorite things to do is to nom on me. As you can see, my whole hand is in her mouth. Gail is one of our oldest cows. Gail is about 26 years old. Now, most dairy cows live to be about 5. And the reason is that dairy cows are used for dairy, and when they can no longer have babies and produce milk, they're spent and they're sent to slaughter. And Gail was from a smaller farm, and she actually produced milk for 12 years, so twice as long. And what that also means, for people who don't know, is that means she had 12 babies that she didn't get to keep. Now, why is that? Because if we're drinking the cow's milk, who's not drinking the cow's milk? Babies aren't drinking the cow's milk. Humans do not need cow's milk. What we like to say is, for every mother, their child, right? So, you know, we don't need goat milk, we don't need cow's milk. Cows need cow's milk, goat needs goat milk. Humans need human milk, and then when we're done drinking milk, when we're weaned, we don't need anything anymore. So, Gail has lost 12 babies, and after 12 years, when she was spent and it was time for her to go to slaughter, her farmer really didn't actually want to send her, and he asked if we would take her. And so we took her here. She was one of the cows that, when Habibi, the only cow that we had born here, that is still here with us now, when Habibi was born, she went looking for Habibi, thinking Habibi was her child. So Gail lived with the herd for a long time, but now she's very old. She's 26, so she simply can't keep up with the herd anymore. And so she has her own pasture in the back behind me, and she lives here with her goat friend Lily, and they spend their days out in the pasture or in here or biting me, licking me. So, and I love her so much that I don't care. Except you can see now that I have a completely disgusting, slobbery arm. But that's okay too, because we love our Gail. Gail's the best girl. And I say that she has a very good sense of humor. Otherwise, I don't think she would lick me like that. And she has what I call her bad wig. She looks like she's wearing a wig here, like a toupee. And it's not a well-fitting toupee, is it, Gail? No, it isn't. So this is Gail. It's funny, organic means that it's good for you.
Right.
But organic doesn't necessarily mean it's good for the animals, because if you are consuming milk or cheese or yogurt, what you are doing, unfortunately, is condemning a cow to a life of breeding and birthing, breeding and birthing, breeding and birthing. Babies, male cows are useless, so the males are taken away at birth and they're put in little sheds where they can't move, and they live there for a couple months until they're slaughtered for veal. And then the females will be put into the cycle of breeding and birthing and breeding and birthing until they're spent, and then they also will go to slaughter. So organic is great for your body, and I highly encourage eating organic vegetables for a lot of vegetables, but organic milk is still milk, and organic beef is still beef, and what that means is that these animals have to suffer for our pleasure. There are certified, There's certainly certified humane.
Yeah.
You can see that on eggs, you can see it on beef. My contention is that no death is really humane. And in some ways, you have this animal that trusts you and loves you, and then one day you just slit its throat. Well, what a betrayal. And that animal's last moments are the thought of, I want to live, because that's what everybody's last moments usually are, and how could you have done this to me? So it's quite a betrayal, this humane, I call it a myth. They may be raised humanely, but they're still slaughtered, and there's nothing humane about any kind of slaughter. And Gail agrees. We say an only goat is a lonely goat.
Okay.
Most goats really prefer to be in herds. They're very unhappy if they're not in herds.
Yeah.
Lily is an exception. Lily does not like other goats.
No.
We don't know why. Animals respond differently to trauma.
Right.
And so we don't know what happened in Lily's past that would have caused her to not want to be around other goats. But Lily does not like other goats and is very aggressive, so she does love Gail, and she lives here with Gail and feels protective of Gail, and also doesn't have to interact with other goats, which she doesn't like. This is the barn, and a lot of the animals are very nosy and very friendly and are here to see us. So let me point them out to you. Way back here we have Piggy Smalls. Piggy is not in a good mood today, and I think it's because he's being locked out from eating the goat's breakfast. And as we all know, pigs love breakfast. So this right here is Yoda, and behind us this is Chocolate Milk. And this is Pumpkin Goat. And right now, if your camera is shaking, that's because you have Akbar scratching his head on your tripod. So we don't really know how long these pigs live, because they're meant to be on your table. So what I like to say about Jonathan is, you are no obstacle to him. If he wants to get by you, he's going to get by you. But he is a gentle giant. I respect him as a pig, but he's a very nice boy. This is Putt-Putt. Putt-Putt, we got Putt-Putt when he was a baby, actually, and so I think he kind of knows how cute he is. Hello, my friend. Putt-Putt actually is blind in one eye. He was actually horned by another goat, not at this farm, but before we got him. And he's an old man now too. He has arthritis, so it takes him a little bit longer to get up, but he's very affectionate. He's one of the goats that really love to smile. And so whenever I come in, he's flashing his pearly whites at me and smiling and saying hello and asking for scratches. Very good boy. One of our largest goats here, actually. Putt and Chivo are our two largest goats on the farm.
So what's it like with goat milk? Is it the same situation?
It is absolutely the same situation. Yes, that is what actually eventually caused Sherry to decide to give up the business, which is that she, apparently, from what she's told me, she would, have the goats, and then she would sell the babies. And they raised the babies, they were affectionate with the babies, and then they'd sell them, and people would come right here to the farm, buy the babies, hog tie them right there, throw them in the back of their truck, while Sherry was begging them, like, please be gentle, but why would these people be gentle? They're going to take them away and they're going to slaughter them anyway. And so that's when she finally decided that she couldn't do it anymore, and they became a sanctuary. So no, it's absolutely as cruel. It's the same thing. If we're drinking their milk, or we're using their milk for soap, who's not getting that milk? Babies aren't getting that milk.
How do you support the sanctuary?
Sanctuary is completely supported by donations and volunteers. Yep, everything. We are 501c3. We have a few fundraisers over the course of the year. We have tours, which raises money, and we do some capital campaigns about once a year. And we are on a shoestring budget, but that's what it's like when you're caring for animals that are seen as a commodity. Oh, and this is Finn. You can barely see him. He's a sheep. He's one of our shy animals on the farm. Finn was the star actor in a Christmas pageant. Finn was actually destined for slaughter, and he got a reprieve to go act as the shepherds, as the sheep in a Christmas play. And when the parishioners found out that he was going to be slaughtered after his performance, they decided that they would raise money to save him and send him here to us. So that's what they did. So now Finn lives here, and he'll poke his little nose out. He has a freckle on his nose, on the corner of his lip, and it's possible that I have kissed that. And Finn gets shorn once a year. His hair is starting to grow back now in the fall. We try to keep that process as gentle as possible. Shearing is actually a very, very traumatic process for animals, for sheep. You know, as I've said, if they're not here, these animals are commodities. And so the goal is to get as many sheep sheared as possible, as fast as you can. So that means they get nicked, they get deeply cut. I actually have witnessed that myself. They get deeply cut, and you know, they're flipped over. It's not a gentle process at all. Some sheep have actually died from heart attacks, from fear, from being shorn. So we do Finn just once a year. It's adorable when he's done because he's all naked and he's embarrassed, and he runs and hides for a couple days until he feels comfortable again. And then we reassure him that everything's okay, and he comes back out and he's not afraid to be naked. So this is Gwendolyn. Gwendolyn has to be about the bravest turkey I've ever known. Gwendolyn escaped from a turkey farm, then she escaped from a coyote, and then she was found by a hunter who was going out into the woods on Thanksgiving Day to hunt turkey. And when he came across her, she was injured, and he, for whatever reason, had a moment of compassion, and he just decided that he couldn't do it. And so he took her home, and he kept her for a couple days, and then he brought her here to us. I don't know what happened to him. I'd like to think he didn't hunt again after he got to know her, because when he brought her here, he did ask us if he could be the one to name her, and we said yes, and he said Gwendolyn. So I'm not really sure where he got that name, but she is a wonderful turkey. So this is going to be her 2nd year anniversary here. If she looks big to you, it's because she is. Gwendolyn's breed is broad-breasted white, which is basically your standard butterball. So Gwendolyn probably would have been on a Thanksgiving table 2 years ago. And so she is, unfortunately for us, she is genetically modified so that she will grow and eat as much as she can, and all of that will go to her breasts. And what will eventually happen is she will become so heavy that either her feet will just get arthritis from holding her up and she won't be able to carry herself anymore, or she actually will have a heart attack, which we're now modifying animals to have heart attacks because there's so much pressure and so much weight on their chests around their heart. So Gwendolyn is on a special diet so that she doesn't overeat. I like to say that if we loved her, if we could just love her enough to keep her alive, she'd be alive forever. But you know, she is a big girl, and she's getting bigger. And I don't know if she's laying an egg right now or if she's just in a bad mood, but she looks. I always say she looks like she's wearing a bridal gown. She's not in a good mood today. You're getting friends.
Getting 2 new friends today.
I know. I'm so excited about that. By the way, you can have. I know, right? She's like, I'm the boss here. What? Hi, sweetie. You're in a bad mood? Are you in a bad mood? What's up? Why don't you come outside, get some fresh air? Come on, let's get some fresh air. It's a beautiful day. Pretty soon you're going to be locked up all winter. So this is what I call the chicken tree. You can see that there's a lot of chickens that like to hang around under here. They roost in this tree before we bring them in at night, and they spend a lot of time taking dust baths. You can see that one chicken over there, the white one that I call Granny, because she looks like she's wearing a big bonnet on her head. she's taking a dust bath. And the reason is that this dust here is really, really good for chickens. It's really dry. And what it does is it gets in their fur, and they're able to get rid of the mites and the oil that gather in their fur. And as I speak to you, what you're hearing is what I call the welcoming committee. So, here we have Romeo, Mercutio, Juliet, and Nurse. Hi, guys. These geese are called white china geese. You can tell the males from the females because the males have a bigger knob on their head. And back actually in China, when they had royalty in China, they would keep these geese at the court as guard geese because they're so loud that if anybody broke in to try to kill the king and made noise, the geese would immediately wake up and make this racket. So some of these geese are quite friendly. Some are a little more standoffish. Romeo, who is in front now, is just a darling. His girlfriends don't like that. So it's a constant battle between Romeo wanting to be affectionate with the volunteers and the other geese getting jealous. Romeo and his flock were actually just a few of the animals that did not come here as a result of slaughter. You can hear how noisy they are, so they lived in someone's backyard, and the neighbors just complained, like these geese are just too loud. And so they asked if we could take them, and we said yes. So we now have these 4 noisy geese, along with behind them or in between them are 2 Swedish Greys. They are a domestic breed. They are actually they're not endangered, but they're on the watch list. And they are domestic, which means they would not be found in the wild, but that is where these ducks were found, was swimming in a pond in the wild, and they wouldn't have survived, so they were brought here with us. And I call them Brian and Christopher because I know a set of twins named Brian and Christopher, and they're always together, and they move exactly the same, and they never are more than a couple feet apart from each other.
Why wouldn't they have survived?
They wouldn't have survived because they are a domestic breed, which means they do not know how to fend for themselves in the wild. And I've seen that happen before with other animals, where I was taking my dog for a walk in the woods one day, and I saw 2 bunnies that were clearly domestic rabbits that I guess somebody thought, well, better here than having them, put to sleep, which I don't know that I agree with, because you're condemning them to being eaten by coyotes, foxes, raccoons. They simply cannot care for themselves. So now if you take a look at these chickens here that are black and white that have the fluffy feet, the breed of that chicken is called Brahma, and they stick together. We got them as chicks because what happened is that 2 teenage girls went to a farm stand and saw all these adorable little chicks and decided to buy them. Brought them home to their family, where their mother and father were immediately like, absolutely not. And so they gave them to us. And they spend their time here roaming around. A lot of these chickens here actually are egg-laying chickens. We do not use their eggs for them. This sounds a little gruesome, but what we do is we chop the eggs up and give them back to them to eat. The reason being that chickens 100 years ago, 150 years ago, used to be just like female humans, which meant they had 1 egg a month. We have genetically modified chickens in the same way that we have done with turkeys to either grow very big if they are broiler hens, or to lay eggs once a day, twice a day, which is extremely difficult on their body. It depletes them of so much energy, so much nutrients that they need. So first I should speak about broiler hens. Broiler hens are the hens that people eat, and they pack them into cages about this big, 25 in a cage, so that they can't move, they can't spread their wings, and their entire life is stuck in there being fed until they're big enough to eat. And what they will do is they will clip off the tops of their beaks so that they don't, because it drives these animals crazy. And so they'll clip off the top of their beak so that they can't peck each other. And a lot of times they will clip off the first knuckle of their foot so that they can't scratch each other either. And that is to prevent their commodity from being injured. So one of the reasons when people say, you know, I only eat free-range chicken or I only eat eggs from free-range animals. One of the reasons that I totally understand the sympathy, the sentiment of wanting to do better, and every little thing is doing better. You know, I would never say, well, you're just as bad as the next person. But what I ask people to think about is that these animals are still genetically modified to do something they were not meant to do. Why? For us, for humans. And we strongly believe that these animals are not for us. These animals are for themselves. And so when we buy backyard chickens or when we eat eggs from free-range farms, what we're still doing is we're still, as humans, we are still causing the breeders to overbreed these animals so that they will continue to produce egg after egg after egg, which is very, very bad for their bodies. And then what happens, because they are a commodity, because people only see them as something to make money, once the chicken can no longer make eggs, they're slaughtered. So they're only used for humans. That's what they're there for, is to be there for us. And you know, we at Maple Farm Sanctuary encourage people just to think about that, and to think about if what I like to say is, if we can live a healthy life without harming another creature, why wouldn't we do that? And that's how I try to live my life. And we encourage people to think about those things without judgment, just to think about, where does your food come from? What does humane slaughter mean? What does free range mean? Does it make us feel better, or does it actually improve the lives of these animals? One more thing I would like to add about the chickens that a lot of people don't know is, again, because the females are the egg layers and they're the commodities, the males are worthless. So you can see here we have this big, beautiful rooster Strutter. And he's kind of the herd patriarch, and he is very, very loving. He's a very good mate. He watches out for all of the chickens to make sure that they are safe. He finds food for them and calls them over. He checks on them if they're not feeling well. But if he was in production, so to speak, what happens is chickens lay eggs. Eggs are hatched. The chickens, the baby chicks, go down a conveyor belt. They are picked up by someone who makes a very lucrative career. The actual term is a chicken sexer. And they pick up this baby chicken and they look at the chicken and they can tell by doing something whether it's a male or a female. And if it's a female, they toss it in another box to go into egg laying production. If it's a male, it goes down to the end of the conveyor belt and is ground up live because they're worthless. So that's what happens to chickens, males and females, when you are buying chickens. So here we have our two newest residents and our second and only alpacas. Winslow over here was our first alpaca. We never had an alpaca before. Winslow was from a neglect situation, a really terrible neglect situation actually. And he came, once we were able to secure his release, he came over to us on the ferry. The Martha's Vineyard ferry, I think it was, or one of the ferries from one of the islands. And I just picture him the way I am on the ferry, and I'm sure that's not what it was. I guess he was in a van or something, but I picture him like looking out over the ocean, wondering what his life is about. And behind us here is Merlin, who is our newest alpaca resident. They really came only within weeks of each other. Merlin actually is 18 years old, so he's elderly. He lived with another alpaca who sadly got cancer and had to be euthanized. And his person really wanted him to be with a friend. So he or she asked if we would take Merlin, and we said we would. So now Merlin lives here with Winslow, and they get along quite well. Took them a couple days just to establish who was who. Oh, got a scritch? There you go. And they're a little shy, but I'm not ready to write them off as always going to be that way. I think that this is just, this is their new world, and it's taken them a little time to get used to it. So we sure are happy to have them. And Farmer Jim said he'd never known alpacas before. He'd only known llamas, and he said he really, really likes alpacas, as it turns out. They're really nice. Ooh. So this is Boo Boo. Boo Boo is a 1,200-pound Charolais breed of beef, which is a breed of steer, which is a French breed that is known for their beef. That obviously is not going to happen to Boo Boo here. So Boo Boo was brought to us. He was a neglect situation. He was found by a woman, and he was standing knee deep in his own feces and dead chickens. And he was hungry, and the woman started feeding him. And she asked the farmer if she could have him, and he said no. And the woman just kept feeding him, and then eventually neighbors kept feeding him. And the farmer was kind of shamed, basically, into giving Boo Boo up. And when the woman agreed to pick him up, to have him neutered, to bring him to us, and when she did, he had a run-in with a porcupine. And so the woman's son saw that he had a few porcupine quills in his nose, and he said, "Look, Mommy, has a Boo Boo." And so that's how Boo Boo got his name. So he's been with us since he was very young. He is, I don't think I'm telling tales out of school, he is Farmer Jim's favorite. I know that Jim spends a lot of time brushing him, brushing his gorgeous golden hair. He is down in the farm he goes down into the bottom barn with the llamas, and he insists on going out first. We were bringing him out last, but he was starting to throw some temper tantrums. Now, when we got Boo Boo and we brought him here, we put him with the other herd, and because he had always been by himself, he completely flipped out, and he had just never been around cows before, and he immediately ran away. Ran right down North Avenue. So we brought him back, tried it again, same thing happened. And we realized he just really didn't know how to cow. That's what I like to say about him, that he would stop you. He didn't know how to cow. So he is much happier being up here with the llamas. In the fall, we will bring the herd up to the upper pasture for a little while. When that happens, he stands over there and he calls to them, and they will come over and talk to him. But we know what would happen if we actually put them together, which is that he'd freak out and run away. So he's kind of a big baby, but he's a big spoiled baby, and we have discovered that he just would prefer to be with the llamas. And then the one other thing that I would like to mention is that just down the street from here is a town called Hopedale. And Hopedale was one of the first, what we call, was an agrarian community, and they had there a group of people who were vegan. Now this was over 100 years ago. So a lot of people think of veganism as something that is new and that is for, health reasons, but the truth is a lot of these communities were called utopian communities, and they were vegan because they believed in what we vegans believe in now, which is not harming animals. It was also very part of the abolitionist movement. Hi, Boo. Maple Farm Sanctuary is open on Saturday and Sundays for tours at 2 p.m. We also do private tours if you'd like to see them. We start our tours in about April or May, and we finish up around November or December, depending on interest. We'll take you all around the farm. It takes about 90 minutes. You get to see all of our favorite animals and maybe make some new friends. And I really hope I see you. Thank you.